Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates. And today we're gonna do another Seattle real estate news breakdown. And this week we are gonna talk about a recent article in the Seattle Post Intelligencer. And this article is titled, "When is the best time to buy or sell a house in Seattle during the pandemic?" All right, so I am not gonna read through the entire article here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Today, what I did is I categorized the different thoughts because this article jumps around and gives different advice from different perspectives in chunks. So what I did is I got the chunks together. I'm gonna go through it really quick and then share some additional thoughts and my opinion about what's shared in this article. Let's jump into it. So as restrictions in the state begin to be lifted, what's the best time to buy or sell your home? The resounding answer from the experts, those that were interviewed in this article, when you're ready. Now, here comes some of these clips here. This is kind of a summary of what's going on in the market right now. Currently, the Seattle housing market is seeing very low inventory, true, meaning sellers can expect less competition from other sellers and multiple offers from buyers. On the buy side, low interest rates continue to be an incentive. Definitely true. You've heard me talking about this in my market updates. There remains an underlying factor of uncertainty, definitely, of what will happen with coronavirus-related restrictions over the next few months and what other long-term impacts the pandemic will have on people in the region. Definitely true. The pandemic slowed down the volume of sales, yes, substantially, and the pace of sales in the Seattle area. It caused some fraction of home buyers to put off their planned home purchases and a portion of sellers to hold off on listing their homes. Definitely true. We were seeing inventory levels drop about 35% as well as pending sales. So definitely a significant amount of people. The impact of the pandemic on prices thus far has been pretty neutral. Yes, that is true as well. There is a misconception that buyers should be able to get the deal of a lifetime right now, said Zillow economist, but that's not what's happening in the Seattle area. A big part of that is because there are so few homes on the market. Inventory year over year is down significantly, which means that sellers are facing a lot less competition from each other. A lot of sellers who would have listed their homes in the spring are putting it off right now. And that means that there's just a smaller pool of options for people to choose from, thus the seller's market. So most of what we just covered here is exactly what I've been talking about in my monthly market updates as we follow the market on a monthly basis. If you missed those or haven't seen one before, make sure you check out my most recent one, May 2020 Seattle Real Estate Market Update. All right, so this article also gives some advice to sellers and buyers. So we're gonna start with the sellers. People looking to sell their homes should get started whenever they're ready. Unlike past years, there is no seasonal timing this year, said one agent. The selling season will likely run well into the summer and into the fall, he said. There will continue to be pent-up demand with fewer listings on the market and people foregoing traditional summer vacations as well due to the coronavirus pandemic. Definitely. I'm still trying to do my vacations though. Gotta be real. I'm trying to do my vacations and trying to make it happen. If I have to wear a mask and have a cool tan line, it's just gonna happen. The historical timing of listing a property doesn't exist this year, said the agent. Now, I agree. I think we're gonna see this tight inventory and more crazy market for a longer period of time this year because there are buyers that wanna buy, but there really is not that much out there. So I think we are going to see that trend. Who knows really how long it's gonna push out because we don't really know how many new buyers are gonna come in, how many new sellers are gonna come in, and how many might have already renewed their leases for another year, or sellers who decided, you know what, I think we're just gonna stay put for a little bit until this is over. So it'll be interesting to see. It's an interesting prediction. I do think we will see a prolonged period of this kind of more frenzied market that we see, but again, we don't really know that for sure. The advice though for sellers here, if you can get your house prepped and ready, now is a great time to list. A few other suggestions here in the article from the Zillow economist that was interviewed. Sellers should get their homes on the market as soon as they're ready. Emphasis on ready, right? Not just throwing it on the market, rushing into it, thinking, the sky's falling. But really, like if you are thinking about selling and you were planning on it, you can continue on with that plan. I would say, said the Zillow economist, that right now it does look like it's actually a surprisingly favorable time to be selling a home because there is so little competition and because people who are buying homes will have access to really low mortgage rates. Right now, the market is starved for listings, he said, so sellers likely won't have much trouble finding a buyer. Truth. Every house that I put on the market recently has sold quickly. Every single one of them. Now, there are definitely fewer buyers in the market and fewer sellers, but the fewer sellers part is the key part here. If there was a bunch of inventory right now and a whole bunch of people were trying to sell their house, that would be an issue. And that happened in 2018, actually. There was some fear about the housing market reaching all-time highs. Mortgage rates started to climb. People are like, oh my gosh, this is the end. And they started putting their house on the market. And everybody was trying to get their house sold. And that was a huge contributing factor to what we saw in 2018 when prices went down. More people were putting their house on the market all of a sudden, interest rates were higher, so fewer people were buying. Right now, we're seeing sellers and buyers kind of in an equal amount pulling back. And so it's kept inventory low and demand at a substantially higher level. So we're still seeing things sell. So if you are a seller, I do think that it is still a good time to sell as long as you're comfortable with what's going on and comfortable with the precautions that are going to be taken. And then also, if you actually are planning to sell, I wouldn't make a fear-based decision right now. And that's a big piece of advice. If you're a buyer or a seller, this is my own personal advice. It's not in the article. Don't make a fear-based decision. Don't do it. Because when you make fear-based decisions, you usually make bad decisions. Think about it objectively. And if objectively you decide, okay, it makes a good sense for me to sell right now, then go ahead and do it. But when you're ready, that's the kind of key theme here in this article. For buyers, there was a few pieces of advice as well. If someone decides that they want to move or don't want to rent anymore, has a stable job and is able to get coaches and advisors that can help them through the process, then they should start as soon as they are ready. We keep hearing that word, ready, when you're ready. We don't know where the rates are gonna go, and we also don't know when the next pandemic is going to happen. Really, there's just always uncertainty. Right? There's always uncertainty. What we have to do is live in that uncertainty and in that tension and make good decisions. So the last piece of advice I want to point out here from the article, there's a lot of uncertainty and it's hard to know if there's going to be more inventory later or not. So for buyers who are not under time restrictions, if they're ready now, they should start now. And if there's time to wait, that gives them a little bit more flexibility. There's a lot that is unpredictable about this situation, but the Seattle area housing market was very competitive before the coronavirus pandemic, and that continues today. All of the factors that contributed to people buying and selling homes are continuing even with the disruptions. Real estate is still going at a fast pace. Even though this is a disruption in people's lives, everyone's lives still have to go on. Okay, so that was a bunch of information, overall narrative of the article. Low inventory, and that idea that it's still a good time to buy or sell as long as you are ready. I do agree with that narrative. There are people that are very fearful about what's going on. Some people are predicting massive shifts in the market, in the real estate market. We have seen ups and downs in the stock market. Thankfully, the housing market is way more stable than the stock market. With that being said, nobody has a crystal ball. And as much as we want to predict where things are going to go, there is still always that uncertainty. So I want you to be aware of that as much as I wish that I could tell you, yeah, everything's going to be great or everything is going, and this is the perfect time to sell. Housing prices are going to be down 25% over the next 2 years. I don't know. But what I do know is that if you are planning to be here for the long term, if you're planning to live in Seattle for the long term, no matter what happens in the short term in the market, it's really more the long term that matters. You can even look at a time like 2008 when we saw one of the worst recessions, at least in recent memory, and housing prices after 4 years recovered and have recovered significantly and increased significantly. So the majority of recessions don't last nearly that long. So if we do come into one again, it won't be forever. So I hope this was encouraging to you and helpful. Again, there's so much that's going on. I want to at least point out the good stuff. And I do think this article was well written and had some good takeaways for you. So I wanted to make sure to share it with you. Thanks so much for checking out my most recent real estate news breakdown. If you made it all the way to the end, that's because you liked this video and wanted to hear what I had to say. So please subscribe to my channel so you can see more real estate content like this. And if you know somebody else who could benefit from this information, please share it with them. Bye for now.